What would you do if the person you loved turned out to be someone entirely different? One innocent Facebook post ignited a chain of events that no one could predict. Is it possible to love someone who's been lying to you the entire time? How much danger can a simple social media post really cause? What happens when love, secrecy, and a single Facebook post collide in a devastating tragedy? If you're hooked already, you won't want to miss the rest of this chilling story. Subscribe now to True Crime Stories ZM for the most jaw-dropping true crime investigations. Carlas Story, a 54-year-old woman, finally finds love after years of heartbreak. For years, Carlas Story had been searching for something that always seemed just out of reach: true love. At 54, life had taught her painful lessons about the fragility of relationships. Heartbreak had become all too familiar, and loneliness lingered like a shadow. But despite the years of disappointment, Carla never gave up on the idea that love might still be waiting for her, if only she could find it. Then, unexpectedly, it happened. In the most unlikely of places, at a time when she thought she had given up on love altogether, Carla met Santiago Lozano, a man who seemed to promise everything she'd been longing for: companionship, affection, and a sense of belonging. To Carla, he was more than just another man. He was a beacon of hope in a world that had often seemed so unforgiving. For the first time in a long while, Carla felt the excitement of something new and real. Her heart, once guarded and unsure, began to beat with anticipation again. Could this be the love she had waited for? But little did she know, the very love that seemed to rescue her from loneliness was about to pull her into a dark and dangerous world she never saw coming. It all began during a spontaneous vacation to Colombia. Carla, eager to embrace life once more, decided to take a trip that would be just for herself, a break from her usual routine, a chance to recharge, and maybe even experience something new. It was on this trip that she met Santiago Lozano, a man who would ignite a spark in her heart that she hadn't felt in years. Santiago was everything Carla hadn't known she was looking for: charming, attentive, and full of mystery. He was a private man with a calm, collected demeanor that immediately drew her in. There was something magnetic about him, something that made her feel like she was the only woman in the world when he looked at her. His words were carefully chosen, and his actions always seemed thoughtful and deliberate. Carla was captivated. For the first time in a long time, she allowed herself to feel vulnerable, to believe that maybe, just maybe, love was possible again. They spent their days exploring the vibrant streets of Colombia, laughing over coffee and exchanging stories under the warmth of the sun. Carla felt like she was in a dream where love had found its way back into her life. But as the days passed, subtle cracks began to show. Santiago's reluctance to share much about his past piqued her curiosity. He was always polite, but never quite open. Carla, swept up in the whirlwind of romance, dismissed her reservations, focusing on the undeniable chemistry that seemed to fill the air. Their connection deepened quickly, and within a few months, Carla was swept up in a whirlwind romance with Santiago that felt too good to be true. Their moments together seemed destined by fate, and with every passing day, Carla felt more certain that this was the love she had been waiting for all her life. Santiago, too, appeared equally committed to their future, expressing his love for her with intensity and devotion. One evening, beneath the twinkling stars of the Colombian sky, Santiago proposed to Carla. It was intimate, unexpected, and romantic. Exactly what Carla had imagined love to be. With her heart racing and a tear glistening in her eye, she said yes, never imagining that her journey toward happiness would soon take a dark and twisted turn. They married soon after in a small, secret ceremony, just the two of them, a handful of close friends, and no one else to share in their joy. The event was filled with love, laughter, and an overwhelming sense of intimacy. Carla wore a simple but beautiful white dress, and Santiago, looking dashing in a tailored suit, promised to cherish her forever. It felt like a fairy tale, one that had been written just for them. The secretive nature of their wedding only seemed to add to its allure. It was as if the world outside of this moment didn't matter. However, behind the scenes, Carla started to sense that something wasn't quite right. Santiago, although tender and loving, always seemed to hold a part of himself back. His past remained shrouded in mystery, and the secrecy surrounding their wedding only fueled her growing unease. Yet love, so powerful and intoxicating, clouded her judgment, and she chose to believe in their future together rather than entertain the lingering doubts. As their love story blossomed, Santiago's insistence on privacy grew more pronounced. He was adamant about keeping their lives away from the public eye. It wasn't just a preference, it was a demand. He frequently cited his disdain for the online world, expressing a deep distrust of social media and the intrusiveness it could bring into their lives. Carla, initially taken by his desire to protect their relationship, respected his wishes. She too had experienced the harsh side of public attention in her earlier years and understood the value of keeping things private. But as time went on, she noticed that this insistence on secrecy extended beyond just their social media presence. Santiago discouraged her from sharing even the smallest details of their relationship with close friends and family. Photos of their time together were few, and those they did take were carefully tucked away, never to be shared. The more Santiago withdrew from the public eye, the more Carla began to question his reasons. She understood his need for privacy, but it felt as if there was a barrier, an unspoken wall that was being built between them. She began to wonder, why was he so protective of their love story? Was he hiding something she was not yet ready to face? But each time the thought crossed her mind, she would look into Santiago's eyes and feel the warmth of his love. It was so real, so intense, that it silenced her doubts. For a time. Carla had spent the first days of their honeymoon in complete bliss, wrapped in the warmth of her new life with Santiago. The days were filled with laughter, quiet moments by the beach, and shared dreams of a future together. It was, in every sense, the perfect beginning to what she hoped would be an everlasting love story. But as the days passed, something inside Carla began to stir. She had always been an open book with her loved ones. Her family and friends had supported her through years of loneliness, through the heartbreaks and missteps of her past. Now, here she was, married to a man who made her feel whole again. She wanted to share that joy, to celebrate the love she had found after years of searching. For the first time in ages, she felt confident enough to shout her happiness from the rooftops. So, against Santiago's wishes, Carla made a decision that would forever change the course of their relationship. She posted a photo from their wedding on Facebook, a beautiful shot of the two of them walking hand in hand along the beach, smiles wide, eyes filled with happiness. The caption was simple yet heartfelt. "My heart is full, so grateful for this love." Almost immediately, her phone buzzed with notifications. Comments from friends and family flooded in, congratulating the newlyweds and sharing in her joy. The flood of love and support was overwhelming, and for a brief moment, Carla felt a surge of happiness, knowing that those who cared about her could see how truly happy she was. But as the moments passed, Carla couldn't ignore the tension and to settle in. She knew Santiago would see the post. His insistence on privacy was one of the pillars of their relationship. This was a direct change to that rule. When you looked at her phone, her heart skipped a beat. A message from Santiago appeared. "Why did you do that?" It was calm, but the words stung. Carla's joy began to falter as she waited for his next words. Would he understand, or would this be the first crack in their seemingly perfect world? Santiago's hands trembled slightly as he stared at Carla's Facebook post. The smiling photo of them together, so innocently shared, was like a trigger, setting off a chain of events that would soon spiral beyond his control. He had carefully curated every aspect of his life, keeping his past a secret, but now the truth threatened to break free. His carefully constructed image of the charming, successful man who had swept Carla off her feet began to crumble. The moment Carla posted that photo, Santiago felt an overwhelming sense of panic. His mind raced. What if someone recognized him? What if his past, the one he had worked so hard to bury, resurfaced? Before he could process his own fear, the first sign of trouble came. A message popped up on his phone from an unfamiliar number. Santiago's stomach sank as he read the words. "Nice photo, Santiago. Hope Carla knows what she's really gotten herself into." The message was cryptic yet unmistakably chilling. His pulse quickened as his past, one he'd hidden from everyone, especially Carla, began to feel dangerously close. The secrets he'd spent years protecting were now in jeopardy of being exposed. Santiago had once been a con artist, a smooth talker who preyed on vulnerable individuals. He had scammed people out of money, weaving lies so convincingly that no one ever questioned him. But that life, he told himself, was long behind him. He had moved to Colombia to escape his past, crafting a new identity as a loving partner and trustworthy man. But now, with the post Carla had shared, the illusion was shattering. What had seemed like a carefree moment of joy was now the catalyst for the unraveling of Santiago's entire life. As the messages continued to flood in, his heart raced and his thoughts turned to Carla. She had no idea what she was dealing with. To her, Santiago was simply the man who had given her hope and love again, but the truth was far darker than she could ever imagine. Santiago's mind spun as he realized that he needed to act fast. The longer Carla's post remained online, the more likely someone from his past would expose him. And if that happened, everything, his relationship with Carla, the life he had built, would be over. The warm breeze of the Colombian coast did little to soothe the tension between Carla and Santiago. Their honeymoon, which had once been filled with the excitement of a new life together, now felt like a pressure cooker ready to explode. The idyllic surroundings seemed almost surreal against the storm brewing between them. Santiago had pleaded with her. His voice was frantic as he tried to convince Carla that deleting the post was essential, but Carla, bewildered by his sudden desperation, could not understand what the problem was. "It's just a picture, Santiago. What's the big deal?" she had asked, her voice tinged with confusion. But to Santiago, it was everything. The photo had the potential to expose the secrets he'd worked so hard to bury. He knew that once the whispers started, once the people from his past began to dig into his history, it would be the end of his carefully constructed life. He couldn't afford that. Not, "Please just delete it." Santiago's voice was sharp, his eyes wild with fear. Carla, however, stood her ground, unwilling to back down. The woman who had once dreamed of a fairy tale romance now saw no reason to give in to his frantic pleas. "I don't understand, Santiago," she responded, her voice shaking with frustration. "Why is this such a big deal? I'm proud of us. I want my friends to know how happy I am." But as the words left her lips, she saw a shift in his demeanor. His charming, calm facade cracked for just a moment, revealing a side of him she had never seen before. Fear, desperation, and something darker lurking behind his eyes. For a brief moment, it was as if the man she had married was slipping away from her, replaced by someone entirely unfamiliar. She took a step back, suddenly aware of the emotional storm between them. "Why are you acting like this?" Carla asked, her voice trembling. "What's going on, Santiago? What are you hiding from me?" His face turned pale, and in that moment he realized just how much he had underestimated her strength. He had always seen her as the trusting, hopeful woman, but now he saw the fire in her eyes. The last thing he wanted was for her to uncover the full extent of his deception. But before he could respond, Carla took a deep breath and stared him down. If this is what you're going to be like, I don't know what I've gotten myself into. Maybe you're not the man I thought you were. Her words hit him like a ton of bricks. Santiago's chest tightened as the weight of her statement pressed down on him. He couldn't lose her, not after everything. He couldn't let the secret he'd buried for so long come to light. In a final moment of panic, Santiago moved toward her, grabbing her arm tightly as he begged, "Carla, you don't understand. You have to trust me. Please, delete the post or everything will fall apart." Carla, now feeling trapped and fearful, jerked her arm back, but as she did, she lost her balance. The balcony railing loomed dangerously close. Santiago's heart raced as he reached out to steady her, but it was too late. The next few moments were a blur. A single scream shattered the air as Carla, caught off guard by the force of the moment, stumbled backward. Her body hit the railing with a sickening thud before she toppled over the side. Santiago's mind was consumed by panic and rage, the weight of his lies pressing down on him. In the heat of the argument, as Carla's voice grew louder, he lost control. The pressure of keeping his past hidden, combined with the crushing realization that his new life was unraveling before him, led to a moment of sheer desperation. In one impulsive, uncontrolled motion, Santiago's hands pushed Carla with a force he couldn't take back. It was a blur. One moment she was standing before him, defiant and questioning, and the next she was falling, her body disappearing over the edge of the balcony. Time seemed to freeze for a split second. Santiago's heart hammered in his chest as he stared at the empty space where Carla had once stood. He reached forward, but it was too late. The sound of her body crashing onto the ground below was deafening. A sickening realization spread through him. He had just taken everything from her. The weight of what he had done hit him like a tidal wave. There was no going back now. As the seconds stretched on, Santiago's initial shock gave way to cold, calculating clarity. His first instinct was to run, to escape, but something deep inside told him that would be futile. He knew the police would be coming soon. The honeymoon that had started with so much promise, the woman he had carefully groomed and manipulated, now lay lifeless at the bottom of the balcony. He stood frozen, unsure of what to do next. But deep down, a voice echoed within him, warning him that there was no way out of this. The secrets he had kept hidden for so long, his criminal past, his fraudulent life, were now threatening to destroy him. And in the midst of his anguish, there was one undeniable truth. His life was over. By the time authorities arrived, Santiago had already made up his mind. In an attempt to avoid further suspicion and cover his tracks, he pretended to be a distraught husband who had witnessed the tragic accident. But even as he spoke to the police, his eyes darted nervously, unable to conceal the guilt bubbling beneath the surface. The investigation into Carla's death would soon reveal the truth, but by then Santiago had already disappeared, leaving behind only the wreckage of his lies and the painful memory of a woman who had trusted him. As the investigation into Carla's tragic death progressed, a web of deception began to unfurl, revealing the true nature of Santiago Lozano. What had seemed like a whirlwind romance was in reality a carefully orchestrated con. Detectives dug deeper into his past, uncovering a history of manipulation and deceit. Santiago had been a professional scammer, targeting older women for their wealth and using charm as his weapon. He had perfected the art of gaining their trust, painting himself as the ideal man, charming, attentive, and loving. But the truth was far darker. Santiago's past was littered with victims. women who had been left emotionally devastated and financially drained after falling for his false promises. Carla Stefaniak was just the latest in a long line of women to fall prey to his manipulations. As investigators combed through Santiago's life, they discovered that he had been using fake identities for years, each one designed to gain the trust of his victims. His relationships were nothing more than elaborate schemes to extract money and resources from vulnerable women. He had preyed on their loneliness and hopes for love, slowly working his way into their lives before striking. He had also made sure to keep his true identity hidden. No one, until now, had known the real Santiago Lozano. His history of scams and criminal activities had been carefully concealed, buried beneath a facade of love and charm. As the truth came to light, it became clear that Carla had been targeted not out of love, but as part of another scheme to gain access to her finances. And when her wedding photo on Facebook had drawn unwanted attention, Santiago's fears escalated. The post had been the final straw, exposing his carefully constructed world to the outside. In a moment of panic and rage, he had ended Carla's life. Her friends and family, who had initially celebrated her newfound happiness, were devastated by the truth. Carla had thought she had found the man who would finally give her the love she had longed for. Instead, she had become just another victim in Santiago's twisted game. As police closed in on Santiago, they were met with resistance. He had vanished, leaving no trace behind. His criminal expertise had allowed him to slip away once again, disappearing into the shadows, just as he had done with every other woman before Carla. But despite his efforts to flee, authorities were determined to bring him to justice. With each passing day, the search for Santiago Lozano intensified. His past was now exposed, and the consequences of his actions were about to catch up with him. What began as a story of newfound love ended as a haunting warning about trust, secrecy, and the dangers of ignoring red flags. Carla Stefaniak's tragic fate serves as a stark reminder that not everything that glitters is gold. And sometimes the people we trust the most can have the darkest secrets. If you found this story shocking, don't forget to comment below with your thoughts. Subscribe to stay updated with more true crime stories and share with friends who need to hear this cautionary tale. Your support helps us bring these stories to light and keep you informed about the world's most chilling cases.